I am sitting here looking at the sky through Nebula's skyport, and the constellations are really reminding me of home. In a lot of ways over the past couple of months, they have become my home. I've traveled to the furthest end of the solar system and have had my fair share of near-death experiences. Part of me misses my simple life back on Mars. But I am still in this race, and the end is getting really close. After some deep breaths, I started to decipher the clue. Ring. Well, there are a few planets with rings, but if I know Selita at all, she would only choose the brightest and the most beautiful. Saturn. So, I'm off. Target acquired. Only the universe knows what's waiting for me in those rings. Saturn is completely enchanting. As I approached its orbit, I couldn't help but admire its strange beauty. It wasn't long before I approached the rings, gliding over a sea of ice and rock as I slowly made my way towards the A-ring. I must have been daydreaming and taking my time over the strange sea of rock and ice because I was pulled out of a trance suddenly when I noticed movement out of the corner of my eye through the left porthole. There was a tiny, flailing, boxy-like object heading straight for me. Note to self, always keep moving. It's when you stop that strange things happen in space. I didn't have time to react before the little box fully smashed into the side of my ship. In shock, I peered out my window and saw the box. I noticed right away that he was staring right back at me. We both paused, just looking at each other for a second, and I decided whether or not it was safe to invite a complete stranger into my ship. All of my training from the Starborn Academy told me it was a bad idea. So, I turned away to reroute the ship, heard a tiny pounding on the porthole. I looked back and saw him beating the glass with his little arms and legs. And my heart just couldn't take it. I motioned for him to climb along Nebula to the airlock and then prepped myself mentally for the encounter. So, I closed my eyes and counted to 7 before letting him in. After speaking to him for an hour, I was confident that I had made the right choice in bringing him aboard. Starborn? Meet Miko, an abbreviation for main engine cutoff, and let me tell you, he has been through the ringer. He's been orbiting Ring A for days, but has no idea how he got there. His previous travel companions must have wiped his memory, which is a bit suspicious. I gave him some bolts to munch on after I questioned him and received very few answers. But when he noticed the Pluto coin on Nebula's dash, he suddenly became rigid and his eyes changed from bright blue to a deep yellow. Then he said, "The key you search for lies in the swarm I left behind." I was about to ask what he meant when he blinked. His eyes went back to their neon blue and he sat quietly eating bolts. So I rushed to the pilot seat, not giving Miko any time to buckle up. As I hit the accelerator, he was flung to the back of the ship. After flying over the ring for 2 minutes and looking closely for the first time since we've arrived, I noticed something was wrong. Very wrong. Someone had littered the ring with coins, millions of coins, that all looked like the ones I had been collecting in the treasure hunt. I immediately started to panic, so I used Nebula's drone to scoop a handful of the coins for examination. They all looked identical, but as I held them in the palm of my hand, I realized that they felt a little lighter than the coins I had been collecting so far. I compared them with the Pluto coin that I collected last week, and I was right. They were so light. There's no way they were made of real gold. My stomach immediately dropped and I realized this was sabotage. Someone was disguising the real coins with millions of counterfeits. I had an impossible task ahead of me. Suddenly, I noticed Miko beside me in the co-pilot chair, examining the pile of coins that was on the verge of giving me a panic attack. He used one of his little arms and waved it slowly over the coins, producing a scanning light as he moved. To my shock and delight, he said, "This is aluminum covered in pyrite." Right then and there, we struck a deal. If he helped me, then he could tag along for the rest of the hunt, having all the bolts he could ever ask for. So, I tethered him up and tossed him out the airlock and watched in amazement as he got to work. We ended up scouring the coin-filled section of Ring A for hours until finally, success. Miko passed me the golden coin and I was overwhelmed with emotions. I realized then that I had been desperately in need of a companionship. Having Miko around might be just the thing I need to get me through to the end of this race. Well, this is Luna Lightspeed signing off with too many coins in her ship. Later, tardigrades.